Welcome to the MBU Football Coaches Show. My name is Guy Danhoff, and I'm here with Coach B. Coach, here it is. It's 2024, the 10th year of MBU football, as you've been our skipper the entire time. What does this mean to you, first and foremost, given the fact that this is now 10 years, and certainly now as we go to the 2024 season?
Oh, it's pretty special. Last night I was kind of reminiscent. I put something out on social media with a picture of the first game since last night was actually 10 years to the day. August 28th was our first game with SEMO. So it was just kind of special thinking back on that night. And although the score wasn't in our favor, obviously playing a very good SEMO team, it just was special. It was, I remember what I said to the team before we even ran out, and the fact that how many people it went in to make that night happen. And then here we are 10 years later. We're broadcasting from a press box that is at our own stadium.
Yep.
It's something Dr. Smith and I still laugh about, even though he's retired and stuff, but we still laugh about the fact he's like, you're never going to have your own field. You're never going to have your own stadium. And here we are. We have a great stadium. We have a great facility, not just for football, but what the university has invested in this place for soccer and lacrosse and track. And it's just, like I said, it's really special. It's humbling that I've been here now for 10 years and that, Dr. Lacey, who hired me, ultimately had faith in me to do that and launch a program. And then, Dr. Ross and Dr. Smith and all the people that have believed in me and the program. It's humbling, but it's really special. And I enjoyed last night when I posted that. I saw a lot of the alumni starting to comment. And one of the guys, Bryson Barnes, just talking about how special it was for him to be a part of this. And there were other guys as well, but then you look at Bryson, and there were 5 years or 6 years where he hadn't missed a game because he coached for us. He never missed a game as a player, and just a lot of really nice memories thinking back on that 10th year. We're going to honor those guys this year. We're going to honor them on the home game against William Woods on September 28th, and we're going to do a reunion get-together on that Friday night. So we're excited and in the planning processes of that.
Yeah. Well, I knew this would be very sentimental to you, which is why I wanted to ask the question. And now, quick review of 2023. Obviously, wasn't the kind of season you were expecting. The team went 2-8. However, there were some pretty exciting things as I looked at the stats. I know you're not a big stat guy, but for all the fans out there, you got to put the glasses on. See, in this 10 years we've been doing this, now I have glasses. I know. Okay, so last year though, on offense, you were averaging nearly 24 points a game. And granted, the defense was slightly leaky with 30 points a game giving up. However, nearly 400 yards of total offense a game. Kind of respond to that, because that's a very successful big number if you're putting up nearly 400 yards a game.
Yeah, no, I was really pleased at the growth our offense made. Especially with as we started, we started in a tough loss against William Penn.
Right.
But there, as I look, we had Coach Heck, that was a new coordinator, Coach Thomason, new offensive line. There was a lot of new players and athletes that everybody was just kind of getting adjusted. And that was kind of my comment to those guys. They were extremely frustrated because going through camp, we really looked good.
Right.
And then that first game, we just couldn't click, but we had Jordan Simpson, who was in a new offense for the first time. And I just kind of said, hey, this thing's going to come together. And it did. The longer as the season went on, the more productive we got. And, defensively, I think we did some good things. Like you said, we gave up too many points per game, but there was some situations where, we have to be a little better in turnovers and kind of late game stuff. But there was some stuff to build off of. You mentioned the record. The record obviously wasn't where we wanted it, but there was some positives. We were able to make some progress offensively. We were able to be competitive in almost every game that we played. And it just came down to kind of the fourth quarter and crunch time and little things that we have to do better moving into 2024.
Well, absolutely. So you got some things to really build on, and I know that I've had a chance to be with you on the fall camp report along with Kevin Paulus. The team is bigger than ever. You guys did an incredible job recruiting, and when I mean bigger, it just doesn't mean bigger for bigger's sake. I mean, you got some people who are agile that can move, do some things, and I'll have you speak to that. So beyond just being bigger, you've got more depth than you ever had. I know you've been talking about that all camp. Why don't you kind of dive into that a little bit more? The team's bigger, and then certainly, I guess from you guys getting a little more money, you've been able to get a lot more depth at a lot of these key positions.
Yeah, that's key. When it's a long season and it's a physical game, we have to have guys that we can trust down through the depth chart. It's not just having a two deep necessarily. It's having some guys that are threes and fours that could step in and make plays, because you just never know. I know there was a time where we had our fourth or fifth slot receiver out there running with the ones, and it was like, well, this guy was nursing a hamstring or twisted his ankle, and nothing season ending, thank goodness, for many of our guys, but you have to have that depth, and especially in this league. We've come from the mid-states, which was a very physical, tough league, into the heart of America, which is very much the same. So, if you're going to make it through this league in 11 games, you've got to have that depth. So, that was something that we really felt we needed to go get fixed. And then we also, to your point, we needed to get bigger, you know, especially on the offensive and defensive lines. We needed to get more guys that when you're going through stretch, you're like, okay, we kind of feel good about it. Or when you get the two deep on Monday and you see guys like Grandview where they're 6'4", 295, 6'3", 295, and that's the way it is all the way across the line. Well, that's what you've got to do. You've got to do those things to compete. And I felt like we did a pretty good job across the board, not just in offensive and defensive line, but getting bigger and faster in a lot of positions, and then that helps build that competitiveness. I think the more depth you have beyond, kind of an injury standpoint, it makes everything more competitive. Like that starter can't just sit back and say, well, they can't replace me, the guy behind me is no good, and they're just going to have to deal with whatever I do. Well, when that guy's good and he's doing the things you ask him to do, it's easy to make that switch, and it elevates your whole program.
Well, I'll just say this. I know from when we did the fall camp report on one of your final scrimmages, it was amazing when you did have the threes in, how everyone was paying attention, because all those players are fighting for jobs and opportunities. And it was great also seeing the support of the ones and twos locking in and really encourage them looking for those big plays and patting their teammates on the back. That's something maybe, I'm not saying that maybe it didn't happen before, maybe it did, but not like to the level that we saw it just in recent weeks.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to, well, we have a really good tight group right now. I think that these guys are really bought in and so far really doing a good job working hard. But I think the other side of that is the competitive part. The ones know that guy could come take their job at any day. But they still are rooting them on. They still want to help them. And the thing that I've seen, we've made it an emphasis this year to get our younger guys, our threes, our fours, reps in almost every practice, which hasn't always happened. And some of that goes back to the fact that, hey, these guys can help us. Whereas, I think in the past there might have been a few guys here and there, whereas the vast majority were a ways off. I think all of these guys at any moment could step in, and they might have to get their feet wet and learn. But they can step in and hold their own and do a really good job.
All right, Coach. Well, let's go to the offense. It seems like we talked about them averaging nearly 24 points a game a year ago. Let's talk about some of your key losses and what you plan to do to replace them, and maybe what would be a kind of a projected lineup coming Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Well, I think when you look at key losses, you guys start at the running back position. We lost Carl Garman, we lost Darius Morrison. Those were two guys that were dynamic carrying the football for us. Obviously, Demo had a tremendous career for us and is putting in some work, possibly getting a shot with the UFL.
Oh, very cool.
He's working really hard. So those are guys that it's hard to replace. The good thing is Lionel Banks is a guy that Spartan fans know. He had some good carries last year. I know he didn't have the carry the load as much as he had wanted, but something we talked about is, listen, with these guys out of the way, that opens the door. This is your show now. And then we have the addition of Jared Stewart, who's a CBC grad, and he looks really good. I'm excited about what he's doing at running back. So I think it's going to look different, but we have two guys in there that can fill those holes. You look up front, you had Nate Stotts, who was a tremendous player for us, played offensive line. Josh Munn, who is just a great leader offensively. I'm sure I'm leaving guys out, but I think some of those replacements come with the recruiting. Some of them come with what we did in recruiting 2 years ago, because obviously anytime you're a true freshman and you got to step in, especially in the offensive line, that's asking a lot.
Yep.
But we've seen a lot of growth out of several freshmen that have worked their way into the starting line. Connor Ackerson's a guy who will get a lot of time at the tight end position. He's doing a great job replacing Tyler Watson, who transferred. So, Tanner Ray, first team all conference offensive lineman.
Yep.
But, I feel like we were able to bring some of these guys up. And will they have all the experience of those guys? No, not necessarily. But at the same token, they bring different things to the table, which is a positive as well.
Yeah. So with that, obviously, let's go to your skill positions. What are your projected starters, certainly against Cumberland?
Well, Jordan's going to get the start at quarterback.
Okay.
Obviously Cooper Brown is a tremendous quarterback, and he's a great backup. So we have full faith and confidence in both of those guys. Joe White at wide receiver, who was a freshman last year, got to see a chance of him, but he's put in a tremendous amount of work and looks really good. You got Shane Becker, who's back from injury.
That's good.
Yep. We lose Gavin Claude. He's out with the ACL that he had last year towards the end of the year against Benedictine, so he'll be out majority, if not all of the season. But we were able to bring in some young guys. Julian Williams, another guy who's a CBC grad, but he's actually a grad transfer for us. Spent his time at Mo West.
Okay.
So he'll be contributing at the wide receiver position. I feel like there's some young guys who can figure in the mix, but those are guys who have really done a good job here throughout the camp.
And then what about your linemen? Where are you going from left to right?
Well, from left to right, we're looking at I don't even know who's our left tackle right now, because we had a young guy who is a little bit day to day right now after an injury.
Gotcha.
So it could be David Blake, it could be Eli Kraft, it could be Lane Morrow, who is our projected starter. We'll just see how he's at.
Sure.
Obviously, you got Xavier Tipler, you got Cale Bunner. Those are guys that are returners and really good. And then Antonio Willis has done a great job as a freshman stepping up.
And if memory recalls correctly, Tipler was third team All-Heart last year.
Yeah, and he's just a tremendous leader. He's a tremendous guy that he knows everything inside and out, and a guy that everybody respects.
Yep. All right, let's go to the defensive side. Well, I'm going to throw it out there because I think last year you're missing someone that just, I don't know, you saw his number just streak all across the field, and that's your middle linebacker, Blake Height. What more can we say about him, the career he's had?
Yeah.
I mean, has shattered every tackle record known, tackle for losses, tackles in a season, tackles for a career. I mean, even the great All-American first-teamer Jalen Cowley, even when that record was broken that Jalen had, he knew that that was a very special record. So it just goes to show, again, the camaraderie that these young men have. But talk to us about Blake and then how you're going about your defense and getting it up to speed this season.
Well, you hit on it. How do you replace a guy that had 220 tackles or more over his past 2 years and was first team all league 2 years?
Right.
So I think when we looked defensively coming into fall camp, we felt like the middle of our defense, which has always got to be your best, was a spot that we really had to reinforce. Look, we get Gio Sains back, who's awesome. He's a first team guy, playing at a high level. But we lose Anthony Graham, you lose Blake Kite, you lose Darryl Krieger and Daniel Creighton in the secondary.
Right.
So we felt like we really needed to solidify the middle of our defense. We've got guys like Dabrian Moss, who's a transfer. He's done a great job. Luckily, we had him in spring, so he's kind of gone through spring ball. That's helped. Caden Lujan Williams, who played a lot last year and is back. He'll be starting again in the middle at safety. And then the move that I've been really excited about and how it worked out was we moved Zep Velder from a corner to that safety position, and he's really picking it up well. So we're really excited about where those guys are. And then you get Rondell Messer, Nick Stepney, you get Lee Levingston, who was a freshman. He'll be getting a lot more time. So, I think where we're at is pretty good. Raekwon, another guy that's got to mention Raekwon, playing at a high level.
Yep.
And then Brady Davis, who stepped in when Jeremiah Austin broke his wrist in week 2 and ended up having a great year. He knows everything inside and out. I think the guy that I've been really impressed with is Jacob Rains, who he's he can really play any position on the defensive line. He was out last year with had Tommy John surgery on his elbow,
Oh, wow.
and so he missed all of last year. But he's been back. He's in great shape. He knows everything on the defensive line. They had a really good fall camp.
Well, all I can say, Coach, is it's going to be great to see them. I will say this: they look like one unit from all the scrimmages that I had a chance to see, and I know that you guys feel that way. Now let's move to special teams, and I'm going to make a big deal about this guy because it's very uncharacteristic that you think that your kicker of all, Jonah Cox, came back and I'm talking in shape, dropped body fat, added muscle, probably 10 pounds of muscle to his body, but he also added 10 yards to his kicking. I guess he was working with an ex-NFL guy in the offseason, certainly working with you guys on all the summer conditioning. And talk to us about Jonah, because I'm not kidding you, I fully expect he'll be making some tackles on your kickoffs when he doesn't kick it out of the end zone.
Yeah, I hope he's not making tackles
Right.
because we got to keep him healthy. But no, you're exactly right. That was something he and I have been talking about through fall camp. And, I think he's worked with David Brader, who's
Okay.
a former NFL guy. He's worked
Right.
with David for a long time, and David's a really good kicking coach here locally. And take nothing against what they've worked on and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I can't say enough of what Jaden, George, and what Jonah have done in the offseason.
Yeah.
When we spent all summer down at D1 training, those guys were there every day. And Coach Rourke, who's been training those guys going back to the summer, he's like, man, your two kickers are some of the hardest working guys on the team.
Yep.
And that's rare, but that's pretty special to have. You
Yeah.
have Jaden, who's done a really good job. He's gotten a bit stronger.
Right.
He works his butt off in there. And then what you see with Jonah, like Jonah has gone from literally probably consistently being at the 5-yard line
Right.
to now consistently being into the end zone on his kickoffs. His field goals are now, he's consistent, leg strength and everything from 45, even 50 yards, a little bit more. That is strictly them and the work that they've put in, but it's going to pay dividends this year for us.
Well, it's very impressive. I can just tell you that. I thought it was kind of funny your last scrimmage that they were telling him not to kick the ball so far because he was kicking literally where you had to hop a fence to go get the balls.
Yeah, well, we've kind of run into an issue because we hate to kick on one end during practice because we
Right.
got the camera there and he might
Right.
break the camera, and then the other end we got cars, so we got to figure out what that ideal spot is.
And then my line was, when your scrimmage was over, I looked at Jonah and I said, Jonah, don't worry, it's all in their budget.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so with that, you're taking on Cumberland this Saturday at 1 o'clock. You've never played Cumberland before. A year ago, they were a 5-5 team. And really quickly, they were a run-heavy team, as last year they were averaging nearly 230 yards a game, and only about 80 yards passing. So you know what they're going to do. However, their leading rusher from a year ago is no longer there, but their number 2 rusher from last year, their quarterback, is still here. So talk to us about Cumberland and what you see, and what do you think you're going to need to do to have success?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Coach Mathis, their head coach, I've gotten to know him back in 2019 when I coached the All-Star game
that's
down
right,
in Georgia. He was the head coach of that team, and I worked with him on that, and we've kept in touch and kept a good relationship. And so it worked out for our teams to play. So he's a tremendous coach. I know what they're going to do. Just going through that week of preparation for the All-Star game, what kind of coach he was there and how organized and detailed he was, that his team's going to come in. They're going to be well prepared. Like you said, they want to run it. He's got an option background, which always presents some problems, and how you play the option, and making sure your assignment sound, all those little things. So that's what we've focused on a lot. We know, like you said, that they're going to want to run it. So our front seven got to show up. That's good for us in some ways. Like I said, we feel really good about our defensive line, but it's going to be a lot on our linebackers and our safeties. They're going to have to make plays, and you always got to be wary of the play action. So. I think the biggest thing defensively is being assignment sound, and offensively just, doing what they've done throughout camp, just being consistent, moving the ball, not getting too high and too low. Obviously, you're not going to score every drive, but just being consistent in how we move the chains.
Right.
You mentioned the running back. They lose their running back from last year, but they do bring in the starting running back that was at Missouri Valley last year. So we have some familiarity with him. He's a big, strong, physical running back that had he had a good game against us last year. We did some good things against him, but he was able to get loose on a couple, and you've got to bring a lot of hats to the party to get that guy down. So, I feel like week one, we probably need to be a little better about this, in all honesty, as you go through the season. All coaches do.
Yep.
But week one is just so much about us. It's so much about what do we do, because there's question marks, right? They could have totally changed their offense. They could totally change their defense. We don't know. We just got to be focused on what we do, be assignment sound in what we do, and go make plays.
All right, Coach. Well, here it is. It's going to be year 10 for Spartan football. Is there anything else you want to tell the fans to get them out here for Saturday at 1 o'clock? Because it's going to be epic. It's going to be huge. Or there's going to be a little fun with even the pregame. I had a chance to see the highlight reel ahead of time. So it looks like it's going to be a great atmosphere for Spartan football.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. So I'd tell them, get here early. Make sure you got a seat, because when just gauging off of our scrimmage, the stands were pretty full in our scrimmage.
They were,
and, I'm sure Cumberland going to bring some people. It's an opener. I think the students are going to come out. It's going to be a great, Jake and the 300 Maniacs, or whatever they're called now. I can't wait to see what they do. And, so get here early. It's going to be a great show. We're excited about it. Can't wait to get football and Spartan football back out there. And we got great weather. It'll be a fun Saturday.
Absolutely. Well, here we are. We're back again, Coach. For Coach B, my name is Danhoff. We want to thank you for watching it all right here on the Spartan Digital Network.